stakeholders.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll be speaking on a number of issues.
Show and very successful.
The first one is about government domestic debt program in itself. And then also what the minority has been talking about, the finance minister's leadership in leading this. And we had the majority, please. So we had the first indication from Appiah Kubi that they had some discussions with the president. And the discussions were that he would lead the discussions as far as we're concerned. So we have an audio for you, but this is what he said by way of the quotes. So we'll put that also on the screens for you. He says the indicators were not exactly the total inclusion of the IMF deal. The roadmaps were the passing of the budget, the approval of the appropriation, and the inclusion of the first phase of the IMF negotiation, which we have reached already because we have reached conclusion at the staff level, and this is the first phase of it. Now, Lorato, this all feeds into the discussion we want to have, because he's leading this domestic debt exchange program, and then also this disapproval concerns being raised by Appiah Kubi, who initially led the majority side, who said they had lost confidence in his leadership. As far as this is concerned, what's the communication on the corridors of government as far as him leading the domestic debt exchange program?
I haven't heard Honorable Appiah Kubi talk, but if you could also show the letter that the leader of the majority side signed after their meeting with the president, I think that will also help, because I don't remember seeing it in black and white that when we reach staff level agreements.
So we have an audio from him. So yes. Let's just get the sound bites from him directly. And that's the latest position that Appiah Kubi, who leads the majority side, on the confidence they have in the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Let's take a listen.
Indicators were not exactly the conclusion of the total conclusion of the IMF. The roadmaps were the passing of the budget, the approval of the appropriation, and the conclusion of the first phase of the IMF negotiation, which we have reached already. Because we have reached a conclusion at staff level. This is the first phase of it. So for all that happened during the negotiations, we have delivered as one party, as members of parliament, and it is up to the president to also deliver as a contracting party. As far as I'm concerned, all three milestones have been achieved, and this has been the commitment of the members of parliament to the negotiation. And when we have reached our end of the milestone, we expect the president to also do the same.
Okay,
so finally, this is the position.
Yes, this is the position of the latest position of the MPs, which is not different.
He says that it has always been their position.
It's not different from what they've been insisting. It's not, the context is not different from the press conference they held that led to the meeting with the president. And that's why I said, if I find it difficult to pull out the letter that was signed by the majority leader after the meeting was held. I don't remember seeing that once the staff level agreement is reached. What I remember reading from that letter was that they had agreed that since the finance minister, if you say because he's leading the DDEP, he's the minister responsible for finance. The DDEP is part of the measures being put in place to get our economic stability and macroeconomic stability and all the other interventions that we have put in place. What I remember in the letter, and it will help if you can pull it out, was that he appealed to them that he needed to go through the budget and also lead the IMF discussion. The IMF, all that we've got into is the staff level agreement. We are still waiting for. There are still discussions ongoing based on certain things that IMF wants to see, certain conditionalities that we're given for us to implement before whatever has to comes in. So I'm not too sure where the honorable member is coming from, unless they've had another meeting with the president that we are not aware of. But I think that with all that is going on, with all that has been said before, the context hasn't changed, the appeal hasn't changed, but we need to be very careful in how we deal with this.
Okay. Do I then get the understanding that government is at one side in relation to the agreement or the position or the assurance that the president gave the majority side that was led by Appiah Kubi on their non-confidence they have in the finance minister and when he should be in office, etc. Because this is just coming less than 24 hours, and you can see that we just went to his office and spoke to him on the subject.
I don't dispute that. I don't dispute it's less than 24 hours. I don't dispute you spoken to him. But what I'm saying is that the context hasn't changed. It's a request they made when they came back at the last sitting of Parliament. They held a press conference, we all heard it. They had a meeting with it, a letter came out of it based on agreements they've had with the president. When it comes to appointees and ministers and what they have to do, by virtue of our constitution, the executive powers reside in the president. The president goes as a flag bearer on the wings of a political party. He set out today, anything that is happening, he's the first person we blame. He sets out, he appoints his people based on what he wants to achieve and all that. So if you go to him and he said, I want this person to do A, B, C, D. One of the things that was said, the budget has been passed. The other thing, we haven't gotten a conclusion to it. So I think if the IMF deal had been totally concluded, I think this conversation will be in another light. But at this point, I think we need to all to be careful how we discuss this issue.
But Beatrice, we have initially, I think we had 93, 94, 95, then it escalated to, we're told by the majority leader, the entire caucus. Is it that perhaps maybe the president is at variance to what the commentary is? The latest from this man, Appiah Kubi, indicates that the confidence is totally lost, and it looks like either maybe the timelines he gave them is not adhering to them, or they think that a decision point has to be reached.
Thank you very much, Roland. Ordinarily, one should have welcomed what Honorable Appiah Kubi had said, because it's a general reflection of the mood of every citizen, including members of the MPP. Even when they speak to you in private, they know that they have three nemesis: the president, the vice president, and the finance minister. When they speak to you in public, they know that the one's economic or solid economic team has not only become liquid, now it has become gaseous, it's evaporated. We don't have any such team. But the majority MPs are cowards. When they made the first call and the minority said that we will help you get the numbers, get rid of the man who history will repeat as being the worst finance minister since Ghana gained independence, they chickened out.
What do you mean by they are cowards?
They are.
The position
the
they held,
the censorship
and then
motion,
also the censure objectives were
day
different.
the censorship was taking place in Parliament, they boycotted and they left. So what do they want us to do with their ranting? Is it about just coming up and every time when we have very important issues like the finance minister taking the very monies of the people away, then they come and say that we don't want Ken? Or they don't know that Ken Oforiatta is the brother of the president, and it is easier to become, it's easier for a woman to be a man than for Ken Oforiatta to be sacked. They don't know. Is it that they are now coming to the realization? But you see, it's important we ask ourselves why we are where we are. And I know that we'll have a second discussion on the debt exchange. But, Roland, the most unconscionable thing in this whole call for the sack of Ken Oforiatta is that for all the bondholders who are having to lose their monies because of the debt exchange. Do you know that at the time of purchasing the bond, Ken Ofori-Atta made profit from the bond to Data Bank? And so one would even expect that if he still doesn't want to leave, despite the mess we find ourselves in, if he will not even listen to the call by his own party people to leave the scene, why can't he just refund the profit he has made?
But Beatrice, there's an appointing authority. The appointing authority is the president.
Yes.
The power to appoint emanates from the Constitution.
So I agree that there is an appointing authority who is the president, who has the power to hire and fire. But the president sees Ken as the brother. And so asking the president, who is using the Sri Lankan model to run this country, to sack his brother, is a very difficult thing. I mean, you shouldn't give me that look. That's what the president is doing. The president has over 51 family and friends, including his ex-girlfriend in office.
What do you mean?
The baby mama. Yes, he never married her, so that would be the ex-girlfriend.
Sure that the comments that you make are
yes. The Madame Virginia Hesse, who is ambassador to Czech Republic, that's the president's first daughter's mother. The Terminal 3 is being run by the president's daughter. So the president, when it comes to sacking his family and friends, have not shown any commitment that I will let my family and friends go. But what I'm saying is that morally and on ethical basis, we would expect that at the time government was raising these bonds, Ken Ofori-Atta, you reported to Parliament that you've made a whooping 159 million cedis through Data Bank. So if the bondholders are suffering and you say that because the presidency and the position is now a family property and not for Ghanaians, I will not go, at least in all fairness, he should have even refunded the money, because you see, that could have gone to pay and settle a lot of the bondholders. This morning before coming here, I had a distress call from a long-time friend whose father collapsed at the bank yesterday. Why did he collapse? And from this place, I have to go to the hospital. He had his money in GN Bank to the tune of 500,000. When the banking sector collapsed, they couldn't give him his money. So they asked him to use it to buy bond through a financial house called AM Fund. And I will begin to investigate who are the owners of that financial house. So he kept that 500,000 in that institution. He never has the money. He's never had the money. 2 years ago when he came, he retired. All his retirement package, because of his experience of saving money in the bank, which went down the drain. Roland, do you know what he used the money for?
No.
He used the money plus his life savings and added it and bought additional government bonds. So now he's holding the one that he saved earlier and the one that he bought. His bond was supposed to mature on 6th February. And the government is telling us that for the 2023 bond that is maturing, we will pay. He got to the bank and he was being told that government has not paid. He went there Tuesday, he went there yesterday. And then yesterday when he came out, he collapsed because all his life gone. He collapsed in the premises of the bank. And I hope that he survives it, because at his age, these are the things that Ken Ofori-Atta is putting every Ghanaian in. And the story of this man who is in the hospital this morning resonates with the story of many people who did not only have government bonds, but kept their money. So for a man who used 9 billion to clean up a banking, use 25 billion to clean up a banking sector that needs 9 billion to clean up, must we even be discussing whether he should go and the majority's shifting position of go today, tomorrow come and read the budget? How is it that if we were in any serious jurisdiction, morally and ethically, no media house will be discussing this? Because even when leaders go for parties in very serious jurisdiction, they resign. When people see that I said this and I couldn't do it, they resign. But here, this is Ken Ofori-Atta who says that I'm not taking salary from the work I'm doing. So for a work that you are not taking salary and you are not taking benefit, what is it, what sweetness is in this work so much that despite the fact that every Ghanaian is on the knees, today as we're speaking, Kanketi Kenoferiata, inflation is 54.1%. As we are speaking, tariffs are being increased at a rate of 30%. There is so much frustration in the system. This is not politics. There is so much frustration. You speak to ordinary people and they can't even afford 3 square meal a day. And so one will expect that we don't have to be discussing whether Ken must go or Ken must stay. You even leave the scene because you know what? Even in the financial sector, when you change the players, the dynamics change a bit. So merely a change of who Ken Oforiatta is and bringing a new finance minister would change the dynamic for the market players. But do you know why, the second reason why he cannot be changed, apart from being a brother to the president, who in MPP is competent enough to handle the position of the finance minister? Who? It appears they cannot find anybody. So this is a party that promised us that.
How did you come by that conclusion?
But if they had, why wouldn't they change him? Because this is a party that told us that we have the men. The president said he had the men, the people who helped to make the cedi one cedi to $1. He had the men. Where are the men? The men have all run away. So there is no single person in MPP who is competent or more competent. My friend was telling me that he wanted his younger sister to go to Yale and said, oh, because of Ken Oforiatta, I'd rather choose Harvard. That is the level we have come to. And I think that as a matter of urgency, this should not be about the MPP or the NDC or Ken Oforiatta. This is about the soul of the nation. Because, Roland, we are heading to a place that if we don't take care, we cannot manage this country again. We practically don't have an economy, and the finance minister had the gut and effrontery to come and tell us that if we don't help him to help us by March, our economy will collapse. So what is he doing sitting there? Right. And finally, if you ever had any hope that Ken Oforiatta can do something about the situation, watch when he appeared at the committee during his censorship. For almost every question, including what was the depreciating rate of the cedi at the time, he couldn't answer. He would have to fall on the technocrats that he brought. A finance minister must be on top of the economy, must be on top of his brief. If you speak to Tsetekbe 6 years after leaving office, he knows everything that happened. He knows every decision they took. So if you have a finance minister who is not on top of his brief, when he goes to sleep in the evening or at night, what will he be thinking about, apart from profit?
Now, we'll show a slide which shows an individual, and I'm doing this out of courtesy and also out of great recognition of some confidentiality, not mentioning anybody's name. There was an investment that was made in a particular investment institution, and you see the sum that was put as the initial investment, and after the mark for market value, what the value is. And so we'll put those numbers on your screen very soon. Then I'll ask whether it's relatable and at the heart of the discussion of the domestic debt exchange program, for which individuals are unwilling to sign up. So you'll see it on your screens very soon. I believe it is. Yeah, okay. So this is what it is. If you go up a bit, the person made a deposit of 130,000 Ghana cedis. All right. Now, when you go down, you see that it made a profit of 24,000. The total amortized value, 153,000. And then we had the mark-to-market unit price being 5.3. At the time that she bought it, you could see, or he bought it, you could see clearly that before the mark-to-market value, it was more than 5.3. And now, as the mark-to-market value sets in, the 130,000, which had increased in amortized value with additional returns, being 153,000, now has 117,000. So 153,000 being both the principal and the returns now turns 117,000 Ghana cedis. Ania, these are some of the.
Which one do you want me to talk about? Ken Ofori-Atta or you've jumped?
Yes, no, I've not jumped. So these are the reasons why the individual bondholders are not willing.
I am asking you a question. You haven't answered.
Yeah, on Ken Ofori-Atta, his role, and then this.
We are putting the
No. So as far as this is related,
you jumped me to.
No. So you're speaking on the confidence that people have in Ken.
But this one is on debt, whatever, debt distraction.
Yes.
Whatever.
So it's related to why they are not having confidence or not to sign up or not sign up, or have confidence in Ken Ofori-Atta, related to how Appiah Kubi also does the indication.
I think that, we should be systematic about it. You don't lump the two together. What Andy is talking about, Andy is not talking about the debt exchange program. He's talking about the fact that they had an agreement with the president that Ken will leave by a certain time.
Certainly.
Yes, do you get me? So that is where it stands. All I have to say that before we come to this one, the debt exchange program, when they went to see the president, this debt exchange program issue hadn't come up.
Yes, certainly.
Do you get me?
Yes.
So,
and the president assured them that let him lead the process up to where we are currently.
Yes. And let him finish the budget. Let's go through appropriation, then whatever.
IMF.
Whatever. But it is even clear that even at this stage, Ken is messing up. Do you get me? Ken is messing up. Kenneth is messing up woefully. It is as if the president loves Ken more than he loves Ghana. It is as if the president has forgotten that even though Ken was loyal to him and is always loyal to him, see the two of them standing together. It is like an uncle and a nephew. He adores the president, but that is not what it is now. There is no doubt that he was one of the people who stood with the president, walked through the traffic, urging people to vote for him. But you see, there's a difference between loyalty and competence, especially when you are the president of a nation, especially when you have people who are looking up to you. Laratu was saying something that the president would have to choose people who would achieve his vision and his aim.
Which is true.
Please. If you want to achieve a vision and an aim, it is not personal. So you choose somebody who will achieve that vision and aim for the people you govern. Because whatever you do as a president is not about you as the president. It's about the people you govern. You have been given a mandate. That is why we say that you have been given a mandate to work for the people. Government for the people, by the people. By the people because you were voted into office. Ken Ofori-Atta hasn't done well. Because everything that going to the IMF itself, he himself does not believe in it. So he's become very lackadaisical, and whatever he's doing has become very shambolic. It shows that somebody who doesn't even believe in what he's doing. And his attitude and his body language is unnerving. I don't want to use the word annoying. It is unnerving. Because when I watched the video yesterday, Roland, I cried. I wept. The video at the Ministry of Finance, I just couldn't control my tears. Because how can you do this to old people? These are people who have worked for this nation. They have worked elsewhere, maybe the UN, World Bank, ministries, department, agencies, private sector. These were old people picketing at the Ministry of Finance, and there was nobody to give them an assurance. There was nobody to tell them that, hey, look, if you do this ABC, somebody to even comfort them. And I was thinking in my head, some of them sitting down, looking very frail, certainly afraid of the future. Normally, when you reach that stage, you don't have to be afraid of the future because you know where you are going. You know that maybe you've done some investments in your life that will carry you through. Maybe your children will also help along. But even if your children don't help along, you have done some investment. And Ken Ofori-Atta doesn't even care The arrogance of it. They call this thing voluntary, whatever. But now voluntary, you are forcing me, giving me ultimatums, giving me deadlines, telling me that if you don't do this, it's like this. It's as if some dadaba who is saying that if you don't do this for me, I also do this. So if you don't come and sign on, then the economy will collapse. You have been given a job. You see, that statement, the president should just sack him because he's not capable. He's not capable. Is there no other way? If you are getting difficulties with the DDE, people are getting their money being shaved off, like what is here? 153, then it's shaved on to 117. What accounts for that? Who is doing that?
Mark to market value.
But I am saying that, what accounts for it? Me, I'm not interested in the technicals. I'm interested in what the person has lost. Why do you do that? When you have mismanaged the economy, now the the Attorney General is telling us that even the AG's Auditor General's report should not have been made public. Since this happened, I am a bit disappointed. I respected him so much. He was one person that I thought, was very astute, very truthful, straight to the point. I didn't have any. But how can he come and say this? Godfrey Odame is a young man who always, said it as it is. But how can you come and say this? Where are we going? And nobody, you see, Roland, the point is that nobody really cares. After making $158 million out of the loans that you take on our behalf, enriching yourself, you have not even told us that I am bringing this money on board to burden share with you. How much are they bringing on board? They will tell you 30% cut in their salaries. How much was accrued to that 30% cut? How much was accrued to the coupons that they were not taking as fuel coupons? They should tell us. Nothing has changed. They are still in their V8s. They are so comfortable. When we sit in traffic, they will come and pass by with a dispatch rider, as if we are not even human beings. They don't care about it. You are sitting in traffic, your petrol is just shaving away. Then somebody will just pass you by. My dear, this debt exchange thing, is it our fault that we are here? It is neither COVID nor Ukraine. Somebody should tell them. And they should stop using that excuse, because when you use that excuse, it means that you insult our intelligence. The person in the village, the little girl in the village, even knows that this economy has been mismanaged. Yes, you insult. Yes, remove your glasses, remove your spectacles. You insult our intelligence when you tell us that it is COVID that has brought us here. You insult our intelligence that it is Russia and Ukraine. Everybody knows how these people mismanage this economy. Let me tell you something. Kwame Nkrumah. People will say that, oh yes, I go there because Kwame Nkrumah was a great man. Everything that he did, even if he took a loan, every project that he did was self-financing. Tema Port, even the road that he built, there was a toll booth there. You just collapse the toll booth. Money that you were getting consistent, 74 million Ghana cedis. You just collapse that venture. What kind of governance is that?
But the finance minister says we're where we are because we have to burden share. And then when this instance where you refer to, where the pensioners or the individual bondholders went to meet him after picketing, he did say that we need this to be able to get the final board approval. That is at the crux of the matter.
Please, I am saying that if you want me to help you, me a pensioner, poor me, you need to even admit guilt. This arrogance.
But government has admitted guilt.
That's what? Always saying COVID-19 Ukraine. Admit that you mismanaged the economy. Admit to us that you didn't do well by us. Admit to us. You cannot disrespect us. You cannot disrespect the older people of this nation like that. These are the elders of this nation. Now the government is even deciding who will live long and who will not live long. If you are beyond the age of 50, you get 15%. If you are even deciding when I will die, the government, Ken Ofori-Atta and his crew, And when you speak, they tell you are NDC. Are you telling us? Yes, of course. When you speak, they tell you are NDC. You support NDC. NDC is putting things in your head. Do you get me? They say you NDC. And sometimes I wonder when they speak like that, it's as if nobody has sense. The NDC would have to come and speak to you before you know what is going on is wrong. We know what is going on. At the moment you criticize them, you see, if you don't want to be criticized, you will never be excellent. Because criticism allows you to move on. Criticism allows you to do the right thing. Debt exchange. Please, you are talking about debt exchange when the old people of this country don't know how it is going to be. They don't even know. We all don't know what will happen to our investments. We don't even know, Roland. In this kind of hardship, we don't know. And these old people, look at them. Why? How can you do this? You don't even care. Roland, why? You make these old people come to the ministry and picket. You don't care. You do not care. These are elders. They have worked for this. I mean, it was so sad. I mean, when I looked, I said, what is the meaning of this? You have mismanaged the economy, made yourself rich, made your people rich, made everybody rich within your space. Made everybody rich within your space, and you want to treat Ghanaians like this. And you sit down when you tell us that you want to break the eight as if we are fools. How can you treat us like this? How?
But Laura, so at the heart of all this is the debt exchange. On the corridors of power, how do they think Ken Ofori-Atta can convince the rest of the individual bond holders to accept the latest intervention that has been brought or proposal?
Roland, the debt exchange program is a difficult one. And we find ourselves here not because we wanted ourselves here, but we're here. Government hasn't denied the fact that we find ourselves in a difficult situation. There are measures that have to be taken, and the DDEP is part of it. And with what you showed, look, nobody is not a pleasant thing for anybody. It's not a pleasant scene for anybody to see elderly people picket. It could be my mother, it could be my grandfather, it could be my uncle. But nobody enjoys seeing those things, and government hasn't hidden from that. Even the party itself has appealed to it. But Roland, we find ourselves at a point where we all need to come together. And with what you showed, the mark-to-market value doesn't change the terms of the buyer of the bond and the seller. We have liquidity issues. We have coupon rate issues. That is what government is saying. Because of the circumstances, I can default on paying the coupon rates on your investment. So come along with me. Let's reorganize this and do it. This thing started with 4 bonds. Conversations have been going on, and I think it doesn't end there. Even though it's been closed, a 3-day window has been given because of administrative challenges. They've reached about 50%. The target was 70%, 80% participation. We reached about 50%, and people are still signing on. Unions have still been engaged. It's difficult. It's a difficult conversation we have, but that is where we've got into. And as a people, I mean, it's an appeal. Because even if you look at it, and not to sound insensitive...
Do you think that the finance minister, when he's communicating, looks appealing? And I'm giving you an example. On a personal level, my friends and I, we had an investment scheme. So for 5 years we had been contributing. We sent the money into EDC bonds. Then we went and they told us that the investment that we had been affected by mark-to-market value.
Yes.
So we lost all the profits. And I'm speaking from an experiential point. So we lost the returns, as they call it in finance terms. Then we asked, so the returns, so do we get the money that we purchased the bond with, which is the principal? We bought it at 6 point something. Then they said the mark-for-market value has brought it to 5 point something. Then they told us that we should wait. When the finance minister reads the budget, it will improve. Immediately the finance minister read the budget, went back to EDC, it never improved. Now what happened was that we lost the returns, then we lost a chunk of the principal. And as I'm speaking, we've gone to redeem the bonds. We were lucky, so we redeemed just after the budget. Now, some of my friends who work in investment banking, they did personal purchases of bonds. Now they can't get the institutions to redeem the investment because the institutions are not allowing that. They tell you that when you do that, you are going to suffer further losses to your principal. So in these emotional matters, how do you relate a conversation where, let's say, somebody who has accrued monies of 500,000 over a lifetime, 800,000 Ghana cedis, and I'm talking about those who are in high end, 800,000. They are advised through an app, and my StanChart is my app. They have a part where they call it investments. You go there, there's treasury bill, there's bonds. So those who have 800,000, let's say 500,000, they know that, I only have a year to pension or 5 years. So this 1 year, I get a return of this every year or every 2 years or every 3 years. And then
that can carry me through.
Exactly. And then you come and tell that person that your 500,000 is now 350,000 because the higher the principal, the bigger the loss. So how do you communicate that at let's say as a minister of finance and at the government side? How do you communicate that?
There's a lot of conversation that has gone on.
And I don't know whether you know personal people who have made losses. I'm sure there are people.
There are people, not people.
Roland,
so insensitive.
We live in this country. We all have relatives. We all have friends who find themselves in the situation. And it's like I said, it's a difficult conversation to have. It's a difficult decision for government to take. But these are all measures geared at channel that making sure that we get to it. And when it comes to the market, you were able to redeem your thing because at that point in time, that was what the value of your investment was on the market. I redeemed, but
we suffered losses.
Yes, you suffered
so
losses.
The returns and principal, yeah.
Yes. I mean, what is this?
Please continue.
No, it's a difficult conversation. Nobody is excited about it. It's a hard decision that has to be taken.
Because you people are not affected.
We are
truly, if you people are affected in any way, please, I beg you. Did you even look at what happened?
Do you have the full list?
Which full list?
All the people
No, but
involved?
if you are really affected, you will not be doing what you are doing.
If you know what people's investments are, what people's private things are. Some of the worst affected people are in government.
Who are the worst affected people in government?
Some of the worst affected people are in government.
You have mismanaged. You have mismanaged the economy. So if you are affected, it is okay. But not the people who are innocent.
When we start
Please,
talking,
I beg you.
When we start talking,
all these pensioners, look at the kind of stress they are going through, and you don't feel anything. It doesn't mean anything to you.
Laura.
When we start talking, right? We sat here last week, and she herself attributed to the fact that the fundamentals have always had challenges.
When did I attribute to what fact? Which fundamentals? Please don't say things that you do not know.
We started on a note.
Okay.
Listen, we started.
Let her make it.
We started on a note where we've come far as a country from a low-income country, got to a middle-income country. We signed a pact in 2015 10 to wean ourselves off donors and other people were helping us.
You cannot even manage the economy if there's
that
no
went
leash
away
around
with
your waist.
most. Anaya, please.
Please,
Please.
Loretto, please go on.
Please.
Please go on.
We also have family members and other people who are involved
I do not think
in
so.
these
Like, you
things.
will not be talking
But when
like
we
this.
come and we try to explain what the issues are, give us the thing.
My
I don't
problem
think you
is with
feel.
the poor
I don't think
people,
you
the
feel for
poor
people more than
pensioners.
we all do.
If you
It's a
feel for
difficult
people, you will not
situation
do
we
this.
find ourselves in. But if we come here and we try to explain, you don't give us, and all you think
There's
we should
nothing
do
for
is
you to explain.
rehashing what the problem is.
Just
Then
say
how
you are
did we
sorry.
get the problem?
Just say that you are
How
sorry.
many
There's
times
nothing
haven't
to
we
explain.
admitted? How many
You
times?
needn't
Even
explain it.
before
We don't
went
want to
on this-
listen. We don't
even
want to
when-
hear.
Before we went on this path, it was one of the COVID-19 engagements on the person. People are upset, no doubt about it. People are pained. Nobody denies that. But when we sit down and want to have a conversation on the way forward, let's have it. Everybody feels it. When I go out to go and buy things, when I go out to go and get things for my children, when I go out to go and even purchase basic items, we all feel it. We find ourselves in a crisis. There are measures that need to be put
The man leading the
get it?
conversation, they are saying he's not empathetic enough.
Roland, you see,
And the refrain, especially from everybody here, is that the defense being put up by government is not empathetic.
So we shouldn't explain what government is doing and how an appeal to Ghanaians to support. We shouldn't do that. If that is what you're saying, then there's no need having a conversation. We put in measures in place to help all of us get out of it. We need help from citizens. Conversations have been ongoing. Engagements have been ongoing. And it's not an event. It's a process that we are going through. It's a difficult thing. Okay. But if at every point in time, when the explanation has to be done, like you're talking about and let's clear that. You get it? It's the market value of that. It doesn't change the terms. Okay. If you exchange the bond for it and all that, I mean, that is not something that anybody should say. It's an appeal. It's an appeal to do it. I may default. So let's reorganize this thing so I don't default. Over the time that I've given you, I'll be able to pay what your amortized, the total amortized amount is. That is what the appeal is. Okay. You get it? It's not that nobody feels what anybody is going through. I wouldn't want to say, and anybody the age of my mother or my father or my grandmother, I feel for them.
All right. Beatrice, she's saying that we need to empathize. At the end of the day, do you think that empathy is coming from government? Because she sounds very emotional talking about this, in my perspective.
Nana has made me a bit emotional, and I've had a lot of messages from people asking me to console her. So I'm consoling her. You know, when I wasn't a mother, anytime people were speaking about their children, I knew that because I loved my mother, the relationship had to be special. But when I hear someone say that, when you do this to my child, I'll do this to you. And I couldn't understand the passion. At a point, I felt it was exaggerated. Because much as I pretend to understand what it meant to be a mother, because I hadn't been one, I could only assume from a distance. I think that the government and members of this government, they can't understand what people are going through when we say that people have been affected. You see, because if you were Ken Oforiatta and in opposition, you couldn't just sit down and make 159 million. And you've made 159 million CDs today. You are living very large. The enterprise,
more, not only 159.
yes, and the enterprise insurance that could not make 10 million CDs from premium today have been dashed 10 million CDs from the COVID fund, from the Auditor General report. So, Roland, I want you to take me on an imaginary journey and imagine your life with 159 million in GCB Bank and 10 million CDs in, let's say, Barclays Bank, sitting down and watching pensioners who barely have some years to die say that we have been affected, our life savings have been taken away, what kind of empathy would you be giving to them? Because when you leave them, you will still drive in the Maybach. And if you saw some of the pictures, they came in wheelchairs.
Yes.
So for a man who has worked all his life, and I shudder to say that even harder than the president, and I would have expected that the president himself is a pensioner. In other jurisdictions, he would have been a pensioner. So if he can imagine his age mates leaving their homes, for some of the people who have worked in public service, they never had the opportunity to buy a land. We have a compound house we rent to people and pensioners apart. So they've never been able to even feel how it is like to sit in a Land Cruiser. They probably don't even know how it feels like for somebody to come and put food on your table and then you eat in courses, like our president does. So when they say that we are empathizing, they are only empathizing from a position of comfort. It's like when somebody is sick in the hospital and they've just gone through surgery. You are not in any pain. So when you go and visit the person, you can only say, oh, you will be well. But the stitches and the pains, you can never feel it. And that is exactly what is happening. Government officials who either could not even afford to pay church, but now own houses at Cantonment and Riverfront, what kind of empathy can they give to you? Government officials who benefited and are benefiting from the corruption and the mismanagement. I have told you that I know people in MPP who never did their national service, who are building their second houses and driving Range Rovers by the association with the MPP. What kind of empathy do we expect from these people? Government officials who have access to anything they want. What kind of empathy? So the rhetoric can be that, government communicators, this is our speaking point.
How do you come to the conclusion that
yesterday
somebody has a house in
but where is the person working? Where is the person working? Because the person, for instance, the beachfront owner...
Do you have the person's business portfolio?
The person doesn't even own a business, so that's what even makes it worse. The person doesn't even own a business. The person doesn't even own a business. If the person even had a sole proprietorship, so we saw them. We saw them. At least I've mentioned Keno Foriata. At least I've mentioned Keno Foriata.
Who haven't worked.
Yes, and they are still working. They are still not working. I know people who are responsible. I know people who were. Can I make my point? If you have your time, you can respond.
Yeah, but you have to substantiate.
Yes, so I know people who, when the COVID came, they were sharing money via Momo.
Names on TV.
They were sharing money via Momo. Even the names that were mentioned, the ones that Manasseh and Anas gave you the video of they taking the bribe, physical cash. When they where are they? So why should I mention them? The names that were mentioned to you, your president became the chief clearing agent. So I might as well be wasting my breath if I mention names, because even the names that were mentioned to you. And so we are living at a time where they are just being told that, you know what, just go and tell the people that we empathize. But they cannot understand. I've told you, a man who has worked all his life left a banking hall and just collapsed.
Okay. Laura says she wants to respond to you.
I haven't done, so let me land.
Please
so I'm saying that when they say that they empathize, they are only merely repeating a certain rhetoric because they can't feel it. They can't probably put their selves in the position where people watch their very future threatened by one singular act of government, mismanagement of the economy.
We have to go for a break, but I give you a minute just to...
But Roland, you see, we've gotten to a point in our country where it doesn't matter that we keep throwing at each other. That is what will, at a point, give us a certain quality in our governance that will not have welfare. People come into public service, people come into government. I'm not saying everybody in government or anybody who comes into the political
limelight or into public office.
Yeah, into public office is not incorruptible. There'll be, in every situation, there'll be bad people. But this constant thing about saying that people have made money, people have...
Mahama was told that he had a hotel in Dubai.
I think it's high time we start
making people
some of these things.
Give evidence. Give evidence.
Give evidence. Because if you sit down and say you know people that have never worked before, and they are building their
people whose wives were taking care of them.
What is good for
people whose wives were taking care of them.
Good for the Ghana.
But we have to go for it.
So that the kind of people we attract into our government, you can't be calling people
they are chopping our money and they are saying that, hey, don't say we are chopping your money.
Oloratu's response is that you make a blanket statement and that you don't bring the past into the present.
Then you go out there and it's like every politician
like
or anybody in the political sector.
What has happened to them?
They're
being investigated.
By who?
There are people who were working before they came into
But she's also saying that, for example, her, have you seen her beachfront house? We're taking a break. When we come back, we will look at an issue of an NDC. We're told an NDC executive within Swame constituency who made a statement and is now in the grips of the law or the police. We're taking a break. We'll be right back. We'll have a short interaction on that.